Hey everyone, and welcome to Ask Dr. Heather. This is day 5 of our Keto Basics series. What the Keto Basics series is you guys have been sending me hundreds of questions. I'm taking the top 10 questions about keto life and helping you better understand how it can help optimize your own life. As you know, I am an advocate for a low carb, high fat, clean, no sugar, ketogenic lifestyle. I do not feel that everyone needs to be on a ketogenic diet. However, in my clinic, I do see a lot of people with the diseases of civilization and know that they're definitely metabolically challenged, and oftentimes they are needing help with their health. We also know tonight's topic, again, by popularity, people said anxiety. We are definitely going to talk about anxiety and foods, our food and your mood, and how the gut brain is actually balanced and connected. And hopefully do that in less than about 10 minutes here. So know that I will get to your questions. I generally, when we get done, I go back and check in about 30 minutes and help answer those questions. And my information is not here to diagnose or treat, but just share clinic current information. So Mayo Clinic has stated that changing your food diet does not cure any mental health disorder. However, there is a huge list of foods they do endorse that actually can help your brain balance. So let's get right down to it. We know that if you're eating the standard American diet, your body's running on sugar. We know that if your body's not running on sugar or glucose, then it's only running on the other fuel source we have, which is called ketones. When your body's in a state of ketosis, it means your body's burning fat for fuel. So how can the foods we're eating actually help or enhance our anxiety and or depression? So let's just talk about that. And there is tons of scientific information out there. The ketogenic diet actually started with a brain disorder called seizures, or children who are non-responsive to seizure medication. And then quickly they found out that it had a lot more amazing benefits. In the media, you guys generally hear about it talking about fat loss, but we are talking about your brains, which are almost 60% fat, that dictate the entire function of the rest of your body. So we know for a fact, and we're going to keep this very simple, no crazy science, sugar feeds inflammation, fats reduce inflammation. We know that when we eat sugar, it requires insulin in this whole yo-yo. So you eat something, you have some neurotransmitters released, blood sugar goes up, it goes back down within 30 minutes, and then you have that craving cycle again. All that yo-yoing of eating 6 mini meals a day, blood sugar going up and down, up and down, up and down, creates oxidative stress, pre-aging, and havoc on your body's cortisol level. And it's a ton of stress happening all the time. That's why you often hear me talk about intermittent fasting, because that gut-brain balance is real. We digest the foods and our body makes neurotransmitters out of that. So with that being said, we know sugar feeds inflammation. Fats actually reduce inflammation. It means also that sugar increases anxiety and fats decrease anxiety. And you're going to hear a lot of the thought leaders. You can get off and start Googling all the information you want, but I do want to say welcome to everyone who's joining me around the globe. If you're watching this on a replay, just simply put a number 2 down there. I'm always trying to find the right time to connect with you guys. So let's just start out with not with the amazing experiences I've heard in my office or I've read people's testimonies, but those peer-reviewed clinical articles that are out there. So even Mayo Clinic lists foods like omega oils, fish, avocados, nuts, and seeds all help reduce anxiety, where processed foods and processed sugars increase anxiety. So it makes sense that a diet high in sugar like the standard American diet is not going to be beneficial for our brain neurotransmitters, or the inflammation in our brain, because oftentimes inflammation can cause stress. Stress can again cause inflammation from the foods that we eat that can actually cause our brain to have anxiety and depression. So when you're looking at that, you want to, number 1, reduce the inflammation in our brain. And we're talking about anxiety. There's tons of reasons that people can have anxiety. The lack of sleep can actually cause anxiety. Food allergies can cause anxiety or depression. We know that high cortisol level from chronic stress can cause anxiety or depression. We know that lack of sleep or fatigue throughout the day, lack of exercise can all cause fatigue or depression. So there's a lot of different reasons, a lot of different causes, but we're going to focus on that basic science that we eat food, our body breaks it down, we make neurotransmitters for our body to be balanced, because our body wants to be in a very balanced state, a homeostasis state. It doesn't want to have Gaba, which is our relaxation hormone, our peaceful hormone, be way up here, and and glutamate be right down here, we know that happens actually conversely on a high sugar diet. So on a ketogenic diet, when our blood sugar is the most balanced, it's the most balanced because we're not needing the insulin very much, because we're not having that yo-yoing of the insulin from the carbohydrate diet. So in order to manage stress, we actually have to manage GABA, which is GABA aminobutyric acid. So you hear GABA a lot. People take a GABA supplement because GABA actually increases mental focus. It actually gives us that feeling of calmness, kind of peaceful, like you can just challenge anything in the world, you know, things will just roll right off your shoulder. That's actually comes from GABA. How do we get more GABA without buying it at the store? Well, our body is meant to make it. Our body actually makes that from ketone bodies. So if we're on a ketogenic diet, ketone bodies actually break down into glutamic or glutamate. Glutamate is actually our excitoneurostransmitters, but actually pushes over and makes GABA. So ketone bodies make glutamate, which makes GABA. So it makes sense if we don't have enough ketone bodies because we're not eating enough healthy fats that we're not going to be able to make the end product, which is GABA. Again, our body wants to be in this ballast state. It didn't want to have glutamate, which is our excitatory neurotransmitter, super high. So we're just wired all the time. We can't sleep. We can't come down. We're over agitated. We don't have focus. We don't have recall. We have anxiety. Conversely, it doesn't want to have the GABA too high, which caused us to have depression. It wants to be at this amazing state of homeostasis where everything's pretty balanced. So that fight or flight mode is ready to go whenever we need it. So both hormones are actually good for our body, both neurotransmitters, but you don't want any of those in excess. So when you start talking about brain fog, that's usually because the glutamic acid or glutamate is actually too high and not getting converted to GABA, which calms the body down. So we want to have things in a balanced state where we're having that. If we know we have more cortisol, we have more physical stress in our life, we have more emotional stress in our life, we're eating toxic foods that our body cannot make the ketone bodies, cannot make the glutamate to ultimately make GABA, we're not going to get there, and we're going to be an over-aroused nervous system. So you hear me often say, what do ketones do for our body? How does it help with anxiety? Well, ketone bodies actually down-regulate or they make more GABA, so our body's more in a peaceful state. So you'll hear people say, I went on a ketogenic diet, I had an amazing body transformation, I lost lots of fat, and then I started having better focus, better recall, I'm sleeping much better, my moods are much better, my kids don't agitate me, I can kind of go with the flow. That's because you're not yo-yoing on the sugar and the cortisol, which is going up and down and up and down. Every time you eat and feed and it drops, eat and feed and drops. So when you can narrow that window of the eating and feeding time and you can diminish some of the yo-yoing of the insulin cortisol, you're going to have this better balanced state where anxiety is going to be much better. So again, we are not saying that it cures anything using a ketogenic diet, but we do know there are foods like fats and fish, omega oils, avocados, nuts and seeds that actually do help keep that blood sugar balance and do help feed your brain. So when we talk about stress, again, stress can be internal stress. Maybe you have a lot of health conditions, Lyme disease, HIV, maybe you have an emotional stress outside your body or your job or your family, or physical stress where your body's challenged in many ways. Maybe you're in a wheelchair, maybe you're an amputee, maybe you have a colostomy bag, which is a lot challenge physically for you. We know all those stresses actually add up, and even on a ketogenic diet, if you have too much stress, you're going to drive your cortisol up. What does cortisol do? Well, cortisol is great when it's in the proper place, which is highest in the morning and then goes down throughout the day. That's why we go to sleep about 10 p.m. at night or 11. And then as we go to bed, it recycles and starts high again. That's how we wake up with the sunshine. However, when we have chronic stress, even on a good ketogenic diet, you cut out the processed sugars, increased stress, increased cortisol, increases a process called gluconeogenesis. That's when our body starts tapping into our lean muscle, ripping it apart and making a type of sugar out of it to help feed our body, our sugar protein, which actually is just the modulation of stress. So how do we do that? We start first watching our diet. We start controlling the inflammatory foods. We start cutting out the processed sugar, eating more healthy fats. You guys can, right when we get done, you can download my guide that's got an amazing anti-inflammatory, low-carb, high-fat, ketogenic food list that has all amazing greens, healthy fats, healthy proteins, healthy nuts and seeds. Eat from that list and you cannot go wrong. It's going to help your body whether you get in that state of ketosis or not. We know that oxidative stress, it's that premature aging. Think of a battery that gets the oxidative stress or corrosion around some metal. That's what's happening in your body when the sugar stays high, the cortisol stays high, that oxidative stress is high, it prematurely ages and actually causes some diminishment of the brain cells. We know now that Alzheimer's is called type 3 diabetes. So if you have a high blood sugar, which leads you to metabolic resistance, which we know if it leads to type 2 diabetes, you're going to have a much higher chance of having type 3 diabetes, which is called Alzheimer's. What happens with type 3 diabetes or Alzheimer's is the same thing that happens in a type 2 diabetic, but now we're calling it type 3 diabetes, is that the body loses the ability to uptake glucose for your brain fuel, and now it definitely needs to run on ketones because you're giving it sugar. The transportation system, or how our body uptakes that for our brain fuel, doesn't work very well as in a stage 3 diabetic or type 3 diabetic or in Alzheimer's or in PTSD or sometimes in anxiety or depression. So we also know that with a lower oxidative stress, lower stress, a balanced cortisol, less sugar, we get more oxygen and cellular respiration to our brain. Think about when you get nervous, excited. We're talking about anxiety. You get short of breath. You don't belly breathe anymore. Maybe you're not breathing through your nose anymore. You're breathing through your mouth. All of that, having that short respiration, increases that oxidative stress, does not allow your brain to get enough. So these actually turn into panic attacks. So when you talk about a panic attack, it's just an overstressed, overaroused, overoxidative stress situation where your body's neurotransmitters can't calm it down. That's when you need GABA. So if we know that ketone bodies actually ultimately break down, they calm down the excitatory neurotransmitters and help you create more GABA, which is our calming neurotransmitter, it makes sense that the foods that we eat can absolutely affect our moods. So the question is, what diet is best for me? I'm going to tell you, you're going to find out what diet is best for you, but we know, and everybody agrees with this, everybody's social media page, every book, everything back on the shelves, everyone says no sugar. Everyone says no processed foods. Everyone says really no grains. There's really no benefit to eating grains. Everyone agrees on that. We all agree that we need to eat healthier fishes and fats for healthy hearts, for healthy brain, get rid of the rancid fats. So everybody agrees with that. So there's not a whole bunch of confusion with that. And thanks, Tracy. You can just, if you want to put down there, askdrheather.net, you can just download it here and we get done. So we start to talk about how do we help use the foods that we eat to control our moods, reduce anxiety and depression on a daily basis. We know, again, getting better sleep's going to help. When we can actually burn on ketones, it actually calms down our body. We get more oxygen, our body gets better sleep, which again is our secret weapon to better health. Balancing out our blood sugar is key when it comes to anxiety and depression. So that's ripping out the processed sugar, cutting out the processed sugary drinks, and start eating more healthy fats, drinking more water, because dehydration can cause depression and anxiety. We know food allergies can cause depression and anxiety. Insomnia can cause depression and anxiety. Artificial foods and colorings and nitrates, so all that garbage can actually lead to that. What do? We simply start eating lots of healthy greens, meats, chicken, fish, turkey, I guess nuts and seeds, just an amazing list of foods. So we actually start controlling our blood sugar because we don't have that yo-yoing up and down. We start getting a more balanced blood sugar with the ketone bodies. We control our stress. Again, we can control what we put in our mouth. We can't always control what's happening in our environment. We definitely control what goes in here, right? So when you can start doing that, you're going to find out that your stress starts to diminish. You actually start sleeping better. You cognitively start making better food choices, which leads to a lower cortisol level, which leads to better sleep, which leads to a better you. I'm going to run through my notes and make sure I haven't missed anything here. About 4 pages of notes. So just know that the neurotransmitters are what is the major role of playing anxiety and depression. So when you look up neurotransmitters, look up GABA when we're done, you're going to see it's our calm, our focus, and we start talking about glutamate. That's going to be the one that causes brain fog, excitation of the brain, which is good, right? Like if you have a car that runs over your child, you need to have that glutamate, that excitatory neurotransmitters to pick up that car. That's how those things happen. But in a normal state with having all the stress of day-to-day stress, all the computer stress, all the food stress, then we know we actually need to have more of that GABA, which is more of that calming sedative, which comes from eating healthier fat. So I hope that I brought some value to your questions. I think I had over 250 people say, please, please, please talk about ketones and anxiety. So this is about foods and moods. So we've got 4 more days here left on whatever you guys want to talk about. I think I've got thyroid, a bunch of thyroid questions coming about, and hopefully the last 4 days we brought some value, and knowing that absolutely, like Mayo Clinic said, there is not any food that can cure your anxiety or depression. However, controlling the hypoglycemia, which can cause hunger and can cause anxiety, and that feeling of your blood sugar crashing causes tons of anxiety. When you can stop that blood sugar from yo-yoing, your cortisol from yo-yoing, and then you actually have amazing healthy fats going into your mouth instead of processed sugar, you're going to be able to make those neurotransmitters to give your body the ingredients it needs to help calm it down in its natural state. You're going to feel that you're going to have better energy instead of of depression. You're going to see that actually the healthy fats are going to protect your body against brain loss, as we talked about with type 3 diabetes. We also know that it's going to eliminate your risk or reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes anytime you can cut out processed sugars and processed carbohydrates and processed sugars, and also know that you're going to help protect your brain when you can actually get your body that healthy fats that it needs. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I am looking for a topic tomorrow. So again, based on what you guys plug down below, let me know, and I will answer Jimmy's questions here. Usually come back and type them in. But what probiotics should you take? So in my clinic, most people come in are suffering from something like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis or chronic yeast infections or Epstein-Barr or Lyme's disease. So we actually do stool analysis. We do blood work to see exactly what probiotic you need. We have about 500 different gut bugs, and oftentimes people are actually taking the wrong probiotic. So if you're taking one and you actually have really good gut health, then rotate through them. Get one that has a nice big combination of different types of probiotics. One in the refrigerated section is generally preferred, but know that if you have something like systemic yeast or candida, you do not want to do a lactobacillus because that can actually feed everything. So we actually could do a whole day talking about probiotics. So I'm actually putting that down on my list to talk about, probably not our 10-day keto series, but I definitely will talk about that. Jimmy, someone else asked me to talk about ulcerative colitis and Crohn's, so we'll definitely talk about that. I do have a video, Jimmy, if you go to my YouTube channel, on inflammatory bowel diseases. That includes Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, diverticulitis, eosinophilia esophagitis, so a lot of itis is in the gut there. Andrea, thanks for sharing that. She notices better blood sugar. So again, I just want to hop off. You guys have a super, super amazing Friday. Thank you guys for joining me. If you find that this information could be helpful for someone else you know, someone else who's confused about what the media is saying, or maybe like me, grown in the 80s, where it says we are not supposed to have fat, we're not supposed to have sodium, we're not supposed to fat, and I'm telling you, eat fast, fat, and have some sodium, then let them listen to some of this information. Again, most of these are all clinical sided information. I will, if you guys want to jump over askdrheather.net/categories/mental health. You're going to see a bunch of PubMed articles there based on exactly what I talked about, but probably 40 or 50 pages. But just know that foods and moods are real. The gut-brain balance is real. What you eat does absolutely help with your mood. So if you know that you're in one of those people, 1.1 billion people with broken brains, know that there is some help. Know that your brain can repair. We didn't think that 20 years ago when I was in school. Now we know that we can reduce the stress, we can reduce the loss of brain cells, we can actually feed our body healthy fats, and we can have an amazing chance at getting the brain health that we want. So again, you guys have an amazing weekend. You know, I'll be checking in with you tomorrow, which is day 6, unless I've messed up and today is day 6, and I think it's thyroid topic tomorrow. I don't know. I'm going to wait and see what questions come in. You guys have an amazing day. And don't forget to swipe and share, tag somebody in here. This is about everybody helping everybody. Connection is a cure. Your question is as valuable as someone else's question. So I want to make sure I cover as many topics as I can. And you guys have an amazing weekend.